All right, so Dr. Dan here, FAI president, back with Andrea Leonard, Cancer Exercise Training Institute president. And we're going to be talking about the 5 next big things in fitness, how they're coming and that sort of thing. So I'm going to do the Facebook Live thing. Andrea, do you want to kind of just remind people in the Facebook group what they should be looking for there? I know a couple of people yesterday were asking about what workbok. Andrea gave us a workbook. And
yeah. So here, let me actually get to the Facebook page, which might make it easier here. Okay, Andrea and Dan. Okay, so you guys, this is, of course, the Facebook page, the CES FAS Kickstart here. And under announcements, okay, so up here, look at announcements. And then if you click on announcements and just scroll a little bit, you're going to see right here this workbook that you can download. And if you haven't already been filling it out, you can certainly go back and rewatch the videos, which are under units. Okay, so each day under units, you'll see the video replay and then these little icons, which are your homework assignment. And that all kind of goes hand in hand with the workbook. And this is to give you guys not only you know, an account of what we've spoken about, but to help you work through your own business and your own vision and make this we want it to be really beneficial so that by the end of this week, which we're nearing quickly, you are inspired and motivated and will hopefully join us in the next phase, which we'll talk about at the end. But hopefully that gives you a little help on the Facebook group. How are you coming along here, Dan?
Great, we're live on Facebook, which every time you go live on Facebook, it always messes up your screen share for some reason. So let's see.
So Bruce, to answer your question, it is called CES. Here, let me type it in here. It's CES/FAS Kickstart. And you can just put that into Facebook under groups. Some reason, I don't know why it's coming out private when I'm texting. So Bruce, I don't know if you saw that. CES, like Cancer Exercise Specialist /FAS, like Functional Aging Specialist, and then Kickstart, all one word on Facebook. And if you need to, you can just email us and we'll give you the link. All right, we're almost at, oh, we just hit 100. So welcome everybody, good morning. Dan's just getting everything going. Sorry, we're having little technical glitches this morning, but we are thrilled that you're here. And still just so excited to see people from all over the world joining us.
Yeah, we're off and rolling. If you weren't on live early enough, you missed the big conversation, which really is the important thing. Which set of glasses should Andrea be wearing? So,
you know, I am a Gen Xer. So, all right, guys, right, this one or this one. I know Barb's going to say the orange ones. These are my Southwestern ones. I know, this is fascinating. All right, Dan,
yeah, and I can't have any opinion on that whatsoever. So Club Industry came out with a Future Gyms report, which I would encourage all of you to go find. They looked at forward 5 years, how the fitness and wellness industry will change. And they actually looked at technology and demographics and a variety of things. And the overwhelming thing that I noticed was missing, Andrea, was the medical piece, the wellness piece, and the aging piece. And that's okay. I'm not bashing them for that. They were looking at the fitness industry, which by and large doesn't really think about people recovering from cancer, strokes, Alzheimer's, chronic conditions, people over 60. They're just not there overwhelmingly. So, but it's still a useful report, and it sort of framed this concept that I'm going to talk about today. Cody and I said, hey, the fitness industry needs to change because there's a lot of aging trajectories. There's a lot of health and fitness, wellness, medical crossover impact. So I'm going to run through these fairly quick because I want to leave some time at the end for questions. Brain fitness comes of age. I think COVID for sure has shown that, right? Mental health, cognitive health, just the routine of life, when all of a sudden that changes and people are put on lockdown or shut down, or maybe their fitness club is closed or their retirement center is, they can't play pickleball or golf or whatever your routine, we're seeing that much faster, I think, than even what we anticipated. People around the globe are concerned with dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or some other form of cognitive decline. And we know cancer plays a role in this, and Andrea is going to mention that here in just a minute. So when we look at the reasons to be afraid, and one of the big fears for baby boomers, we realize the numbers bear this out. There's a new case of dementia somewhere in the world every 4 seconds. The number of people in the world with dementia will increase significantly by 2050. 2013, about 44 million people worldwide. 2030, estimated to be 76 million. 2050, 135 million. And obviously there's going to be a massive increase in medical care costs, but caregiving costs is going to be a big one, right? People have enough dementia, they need full-time or part-time care depending on their ability. United States, dementia rates, deaths per 100,000. You can see the United States is actually in 3rd place here. Finland and Iceland have higher deaths per 100,000 from dementia, and Sweden and Canada. And part of why we see high numbers in these developed countries is because people, of course, are living long enough that then dementia becomes their cause of death. So there certainly is an increased risk for dementia when you're over the age of 80. So it's sort of a good news, bad news, right? The good news is in these countries, people are living longer and longer. The bad news is if you live really long, your incidence and your risk of dementia does increase. So the brain and cancer, I'll let you jump in here.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I just wanted to interject something also when you were talking about the club industry article. I contacted Pam Kufal, if I'm pronouncing the name right, about writing an article, which was interesting because she asked me to write one on how offering an exercise program could attract new members for cancer. And she wants to talk about, whether insurance reimbursement is an option and all of these other things as pertaining to clubs. So I'm going to write that for their fall issue. It should be really interesting to see what kind of a response they get from that, because I think they are hearing the message that we need to go in that medical direction. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that it's not falling on deaf ears. It's just a little slow to be taken up. So put this in here because there is actually a correlation with exercise and prevention, specifically of brain cancer. So I'm going to talk about a couple different elements, but there are roughly 300,000 new cases annually globally. And of course, there are variables there because the statistics haven't been updated since 2018. They're usually lagging, but even more so now because of coronavirus. But there's a direct link between people with weakened immune systems, and we've been talking about this over and over with COVID, for developing lymphomas of the brain and spinal cord. So there, you can see by this little diagram here, and this was part of a research study, that there is improved immunosurveillance, which means it's our body's own way of surveilling what's going on and what we're fighting against pathogens as well as cancer cells, and decreased systemic inflammation. And inflammation, there is definitely a correlation with cancer and other comorbidities. And there are many studies. If you guys, get online and just look out. I think, Dan, you have to switch the slide. I can't move.
Yeah, there you go.
He's in control. So now, whether it is a primary brain cancer or a secondary brain cancer, so primary means the cancer started in the brain. Secondary means it's metastasized from another part of the body. So if I had thyroid cancer and it ended up in my brain, it's still thyroid cancer, but it's forming a secondary brain cancer. And there are a number of side effects, starting with the peripheral nerves. You've got numbness, tingling, pins and needles, or burning sensation. So we call that peripheral neuropathy. Now, I'm only going to go over the yellow ones because these are what affect exercise or the ability to exercise or perform activities of daily living. Muscle weakness, trouble walking, just even things like buttons and jars, doing activities daily living, and changes in reflexes. So we know that with the right exercise programming, and it is very comprehensive when it comes to working with cancer patients, because it's not just about the surgery. We have to include acute and chronic side effects of treatment. But these things can all be minimized, and in some cases, completely prevented. So this is peripheral nerves. And then go ahead, Dan, to the next slide.
Sure.
I
from,
like having somebody pressing my buttons and doing everything for me. It takes
I
all
was,
the onus
I
off
was
of me.
checking the Q. You know, it's really hard to actually manage your slides and the Q&A at the same
It
time. I
is.
discovered that yesterday. I was like, whoa, my slides are jumping. So
Yeah,
I
and you're
was
not even 50 yet, so just wait.
congratulating Stephanie for finally joining the Facebook group. That's awesome. So
Yay, yay. Okay, so we just talked peripheral nerves, but now look at the list for central nervous system: unsteadiness when walking, problems with muscle control and balance, overall lack of strength, and then mental fatigue, confusion, agitation. All of these things can add to it. Changes in behavior, cognitive problems, dizziness, and seizures. One thing I will tell you when you're working with cancer patients, depending on how long your relationship is and the progress of their cancer or whether or not it goes into remission. I remember one of my clients who was very fit. She was in her 40s when we started working together. She had stage 4 breast cancer. And over the course of 10 years, I started to notice these things changing in her. And I actually picked up on the fact that there was a problem because she lost the reflexes in her ankle. She could not do dorsiflexion. So I suggested that she go see her doctor very calmly, to rule out any other possibilities. But I knew in my heart of hearts that the cancer had spread to her brain. So it's not just about being able to, put together exercises that are going to help with this, that, and the other. It's also being aware of the side effects of cancer or cancer treatment so that we can be part of that team, if you will, bridging the gap between health and fitness. And that we can be the one to suggest that they go see their doctor when they may not even be aware that there's an issue. So there's a very tactful way of doing that and, not making a diagnosis. But I've had this happen with many a client. So being aware is critical. Gone are the days of the trainers that are checking their hair in the mirror, chewing gum and counting to 12, right? Hello.
ordering takeout on their phone. Hold on. 10 more
Literally,
reps, Andrea. I gotta go get
yeah. Give me another rep, Dan. And we see that happen all the
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah. Sure.
We have to really separate ourselves from, that classification of the dumb jock trainer.
Yeah. Nobody in this group would ever be caught ordering
Never.
takeout while training.
No, we do it as soon as we were done.
So, if you could check the chat real quick, Andrea.
Yes.
Actually, I'll let you finish this and then check the chat because somebody's asking about joining the Facebook group. So,
okay, yeah, I know that our man Greg is working on that, and I'll double check with him afterwards so we get everybody in the group. All right, so now we're talking about cancer treatment, and this is often along with chemotherapy. Now, just like cancer is a big umbrella to hundreds of different diseases, which are all called cancer, chemotherapy is also an umbrella to many different types of chemotherapeutic agents, and they all have varying side effects. But when we look just overall, these are anticipated side effects from chemo. One, you will hear the term is chemo brain. And this can be summarized as difficulty concentrating or multitasking. This is the story of my life, and I haven't had chemotherapy. So, there's definitely something like with menopause and aging, all of these things kind of come together. So needless to say, people who are going through chemo and also are thrown into menopause, instant menopause, that just exacerbates it. And men can have similar side effects when they are on hormonal ablation, which is not chemotherapy, but it's another form of treatment. They have difficulty remembering things that just recently occurred, so their short-term memory is affected. And think about that when you're creating an exercise program. You have to keep things really simple and free of distractions, not complex movements, not doing walking lunges with bicep curls, taking appropriate breaks and allowing them that recovery time, not just physically, but mentally. Helping them to complete tasks, which in our cases, in the exercise world, they have slowed thinking speed. And dear God, did I realize this with my mom. So my mom has stage 4 cancer. I spent the last 2.5 weeks with her, and I was trying to teach her how to use the new iPhone. She had one that was like iPhone 4, and we're on 11 now. And I told her, I said, I got to say, I'm not the most patient person in the world, so I may not be the best one to do this. And she told me, I cannot understand. She just kept saying over and over, I have such a difficult time understanding anything. And this is a combination of cancer treatment as well as the fact that she's 82 years old. And it is so incredibly frustrating to her, and I'm sure the rest of the aging population, because they have a very difficult time being able to think clearly. And then there is a correlation, and this all came from the American Cancer Society, but this applies anywhere in the world. There are actually cognitive changes that can result in dementia. So more long-term as opposed to, we look at acute and chronic, and this is more the chronic side effects. Poor memory, difficulty with abstract thinking or multitasking, poor judgment, poor decision-making, changes in personality. This is another big thing I've seen with cancer patients. Very subtle changes in personality, even gait, the way they move, the way they think. And these are things that we need to be able to pick up on as health and fitness professionals, knowing that there's an underlying issue that may go beyond the cancer itself. Disorientation, problem-solving issues, and then just all around changes in cognition that are going to affect their social life, their personal relationships, and obviously their quality of life.
Yeah, so there's really kind of two sides. I mean, Andrea and I both talked about this. There's the prevention. Obviously, we're trying to do things to prevent disease, but there's also the optimization, because we know some people they're going to get cancer or dementia or Parkinson's or something of that. So I show the picture of Nelson Mandela here. Inspiration to me. In fact, I just heard an interview with someone in South Africa. Actually, it was his grandson, was on a Netflix TV show, and he was 7 years old when his grandfather got out of prison. And he was in prison for 27 years. He got out at the age of 72. And so prevention and optimization is critical if you want to be able to do amazing things later in life, right? He goes on to become president of South Africa at the age of 75. I don't believe he would have been able to do that if he'd come out of prison a frail, broken down, not vibrant, functional man. And the fact that he had maintained himself through a vigorous exercise routine. In fact, there are writings of biographies of him annoying his cellmates to no end by running in place and doing sit-ups. In fact, when he got into a cell that was large enough, he would run laps. And if you can imagine running laps in a 20 by 20 room with other cellmates, they'd probably be like, "Hey, Mandela, could you stop running?"
You're making me dizzy.
I'm sure some of them were like, "What are you running for? You're never getting out, right? Like, you're going to be in here the rest of your life." So the market's just going to be massive. And already have had at least one person in the Facebook group, which I love it. She said her primary focus is to focus on brain health. She's in Arizona. It's going to be a huge market. So many people retire to Arizona and Florida and all these different places. Well, they retire there because the weather's better. They can do more stuff outside. They don't have to deal with the snow and all these other things. But they don't retire there because they want their brains to decline, right? And so they're willing to invest money. You can see it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar opportunity at some point. So just to kind of to sort of dispense the notion that crossword puzzles are the solution, right? Claims promoting brain games are frequently exaggerated and at times misleading. To date, there's little evidence that playing brain games improves underlying broad cognitive abilities or that it enables one to better navigate a complex realm of everyday life. So that's a consensus statement from research in 2014. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do brain games on Lumosity or do crossword puzzles or all these sorts of things, but the research consensus overwhelmingly is you have to be exercising, you have to be increasing blood flow to your brain to really see the benefits. So we're starting to see programs come out, things like Smart Fit and some of these other programs where you're exercising while doing game activity. It might be a reactive game, it could be a crossword or a word game while you're moving. And that does seem to have an added benefit. So primarily aerobic exercise has been demonstrated to improve executive function and memory. Resistance training, believe it or not, has demonstrated improvements on executive function and memory. Maintaining our muscles, our muscle mass, and training our muscles seems to have a protective benefit for our brain. It's sort of a remarkable thing. And so part of that, I think, is that our brain is involved in all of these movements, and our brain is working to coordinate a lot of these movements. We don't necessarily know the real causal factor, but the research is pretty overwhelming.
And that's a big one with cancer too, because we've got muscle wasting or cancer cachexia, huge issue, in addition to a high risk of osteoporosis and balance issues and everything else.
Right. And that's probably never going to be studied, Andrea. Like, we can't sign up 100 cancer patients and say, hey, let's see how much your muscle wastes and then your brain declines. Yeah. But there does appear to be a link that if your muscle mass starts to decrease, your brain mass actually starts to decrease. And so there seems to be a link in terms of our brain density and our muscle density that isn't really clearly known yet, but there's a strong hypothesis that maintaining your muscle mass helps maintain the rest of your body, your heart health, as well as your brain health. So
real quick thing, Dan, Wendy's saying she can't see the slides. Wondering from the rest of you guys in the group, can the other 119 of you see the slides, or are they just not showing up? Okay, Alicia says yes. So Wendy, I'm not sure what's going on, but
how about now, Wendy? I just stopped it and restarted it. I don't know why that Wendy.
Yeah, everybody is saying yes. So Wendy, if you're still not seeing it, we'll make sure that you have access to the replay. But okay, thanks, guys.
Sure. So just real quickly, because this is not a webinar on brain health. This is just number 5. We got to get to number 4 and move on. So just some ideas of what works best. Well, Tai Chi seems to be one of the top things for brain health and improvements. And we're giving you the Tai Chi course as one of the bonuses that we'll talk about at the end of the day. Sports, pickleball, golf, lots of different sports, dance movements, coordination, motor fitness. That's where we come in as trainers. And the brain health trainer program is something we released last year. So
and everybody who signs up for our university, you get your FAS certification and your CS, and you're getting Diane Bailey's Tai Chi program along with it. So you are going to have everything you need to be successful.
So getting that as a bonus. Getting that as a bonus. So that's why I just threw this in here.
Oh, hello. I was busy looking at you.
Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, becoming a brain health trainer, certified Tai Chi instructor, there's lots of different fitness programs out there focused primarily on brain training that we don't have time to get into today. So number 4, the rise of the fit senior. And I really am talking about seniors. So we're going to see an explosion of people in their 80s and 90s doing amazing things. I don't know how many of you remember Rowdy Gaines. He was a famous Olympic swimmer, won several gold medals. Here he is with 4 swimmers who set the world record for the oldest 4x100 medley relay, I believe. They're all over the age or average age over 90. I think their combined age was like 370 or something, One of them had suffered a broken neck. I think another one had open heart surgery. I mean, they had a long list of things they had been through. But here they are jumping in the pool, and most of them swim faster than I do. So it's not like they were just struggling down the pool. They actually are swimming. So
how good of a swimmer are you, Dan?
Not a good swimmer, but
me neither.
Mark Middleton, aging is not a disease that needs to be cured. It's an opportunity that needs to be seized, right? It's a huge, huge opportunity. Last year, Andrea, you were there in Albuquerque. I don't know if you saw all the athletes running around town, but there were 14,000 athletes competing in the National Senior Games. I joked with a couple of them in line at the North America's longest tram. They have a sky tram there that goes up to the top of the mountains. And there were a couple of athletes there, and I joked with them. I said, this line is so long because you guys are the losers, right? And because he had already admitted, we're out of the badminton tournament. It was too competitive. God. I'm like, that's why there's 100 people in line here. It's all the athletes that didn't win. So my dad competed in the 50 and 100 meter dash in his age group, 70 to 75. Paul Holbrook, one of our board members, competed in the 55 to 60-year-old age range. So fantastic event. That's why we had our conference there.
Yeah.
I hope they get to, here's some of the events they have. there's so many different sports that people are competing in. The track meet was really, really fun to watch.
I can only imagine.
My son,
and it's interesting. Definitely not what you see younger people doing, but I mean, right. you have to meet people where they're at.
Yeah, my son, let's see, he's 19, so he was 18 and he was there. And 18-year-olds, they can be a little bit like, yeah, really, is this really a track meet, Dad? And he had done track in high school. I said, well, let's watch the 60 to 65-year-old guys run, right? And he watched them run. And he's like, yeah, they would all beat me. I mean, these guys were moving. So
That's so great.
they're fast. So the interesting thing to note is the research that they've done from 2,300 of these senior athletes. If you look in the corner there, University of South Dakota, Becca Jordre has done a lot of research on these athletes. What she has found is they're all exceeding over 5 hours a week of cardio exercise, and they're exceeding over an hour a week of strength training. So they're beyond the typical average senior in terms of how much activity they're getting. And they're seeing, of course, not surprisingly, a much lower level of type 2 diabetes. I mean, look at the gray line versus the blue line here, community prevalence versus the senior athlete. It's staggering, the difference, right? Single leg balance, eyes open, on foam, eyes closed. You can look at the swimmer there. You can look at the archer, and you can see there are differences, right, based on the activities we perform. Swimmers, single leg balance, not quite as good as archers, single leg balance. So again, we realize that training and what you're training does make a difference. So there's a lot of interesting statistics and things coming out, even just looking at simple things like shoulder flexion, right? Like, how do I maintain my shoulder mobility as I age? Well, look at the difference between swimmers and non-swimmers. And I already told you I'm not a swimmer, but my shoulder flexion is fairly decent because I work on my range of motion, right? So huge difference between people that are not swimming and not using those muscles.
I got to show everybody this, Dan, because this is part of our training that we're going to do over the next couple of weeks, is you're going to learn how to use a goniometer. This is a baby one, so we can actually teach you. Can you go back to that last slide real quick? Just,
yeah, sure. The shoulders. Yep.
Yeah, look at the arrows on the shoulder, and we actually use this little device to see the orange line.
You can see the goniometer there. Yep.
Yeah, we can use this through the computer screen, so we can do virtual assessments. And when you're talking about women recovering from breast cancer surgery or radiation, or people with head and neck cancer, shoulder range of motion is absolutely affected. So all of these things that Dan's talking about are even multiplied with people who are going through cancer treatment. Chemotherapy, for example, increases the risk of diabetes, as do corticosteroids. So just everything that Dan's talking about, multiply that when you add cancer to the equation.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's the difference of if we overlay, and there absolutely were cancer survivors and people with cancer, they're competing, right? If you overlay being a senior athlete and then you get a cancer diagnosis, well, your likelihood of keeping diabetes away is much higher if you're someone who's exercising 6 hours a week versus someone who's just a general community person. Now with cancer, your likelihood of diabetes is much greater. Right? So just some examples. Evie here on the right actually was our keynote speaker last year. She continues to compete as a bodybuilder in her 60s. This is here for the ladies mostly. So
thank you. Appreciate that.
So it's just something for us to remember that the senior market is going to get bigger and bigger, and the rise of the fit senior is going to be bigger and bigger. And I think, personally, I think it's one of the best markets to be pursuing because it's a huge market that's virtually untapped. The fitness industry is really not going after those over the age of 60 that want to be fit and healthy, and I think it's something we can tap into. So number 3. Leading edge boomers hit their 80s, Gen Xers hit their 60s. Now we all know a Gen Xer who's going to be knocking on 60 here, eventually. So again, we're thinking down the road. So these are big things that are coming in the next 5 to 7 years. So in 2026, I believe, boomers start turning 80, and I think Gen Xers start turning 60 in 25, right? It's crazy to think that in 2025, Gen Xers will start turning 60 years old. So when you think about the cancer stats, I mean, Andrea, you can cover this really quickly. Obviously, we see it start to spike as people get into their 50s.
Yeah, and you just see the top bullet point. Advancing age is the most important risk factor for cancer. You guys can take your time and look at the numbers, but obviously you see it peaking 65 to 74, and then there's a little bit of drop off. But is that because people are also starting to die off? So there's a lot of different factors all correlating to the health of that person when they're diagnosed with cancer. So don't need to read you all these statistics, but you can definitely look through it again and see what the median age is. And then I'm in the category of less than 20, only 1%, but I ended up with cancer. So, it crosses all age spectrums and health spectrums, and 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 3 people will get cancer in their lifetime. So all of these people that you're working with as a functional aging specialist, figure every other one of them is going to have cancer at some point.
Yeah, it's kind of staggering, the statistics.
It's unreal. Yeah.
What do we know about 80-year-olds? Here's Ernestine Shepard. She's in her 80s.
Amazing.
Well, we know when people get into their 80s, the likelihood of frailty increases dramatically. The likelihood of functional deficits start to begin. Things like step length, stride length change. They're more likely to have some chronic condition, even if they've been healthy all their life. This might be where high blood pressure finally hits, or arthritis gets to the point where they need to be on some sort of medication, which is why we see this increased chance of polypharmacy, right? I'm now on 2, 3, 4 medications, right? My 60s and 70s, I was just fine. I took like a low dose of high blood pressure. Now all of a sudden I'm on something for a variety of different conditions. And then, like Andrea's, good news, since half of them get cancer or will likely get cancer, they're on some other drugs for that, right? And so we know statistically from research, once you're beyond 3 medications, your risk of falling goes up significantly, regardless of how fit you are, regardless of how much you train. Now you're on so many medications that it can impair your balance. It can cause you to have your blood pressure slightly off. I mean, we've all experienced a time where we got up too fast and we're like, whoa, I'm a little bit dizzy, right? Well, what if every time you got up from a chair, you had that experience, right? Your risk of falling goes up. And so you might be fit, but you're going to start to have some potential for deficits in our 80s. And overlay that with the fact we're talking about the biggest population in history in just about every developed nation is now going to have an explosion in the 80-year-old population, right? So it's going to be a really interesting time to see the fall statistics. We want people to be fit and healthy in their 80s, right? We don't want to assume, oh, you're 82, so therefore you have to be careful and take it easy and sit down. It's like, no, it's none of that. We want to be training all these possible deficits. When we look at the fall statistic, it's really troubling, right? 1 in 4 older adults report a fall, totaling about 29 million older adult falls. And these numbers are a few years old. These numbers are climbing.
And
20,
Dan, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, how many trainers, your average trainers, not these spectacular ones that are here following us, how many trainers are actually working on balance and fall prevention? They're all about bodybuilding and getting ripped and we're overlooking some of the most fundamental issues with activities of daily living. And I'm sure the two of us can't emphasize that enough.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And I would say the average trainer doesn't even know how to train balance.
Nope.
They really don't. They're not trained for that. They're not taught that. They're taught primarily how to train a apparently healthy younger population. And so now to deal with someone in their 70s or 80s who might be fairly fit but is having trouble with their balance, it's a whole new strategy that you need to learn. And one of the big concerns is older adults are not even taking it that seriously. If you notice, an older adult falls every second of every day, but less than half talk to their doctor about their fall. They're not reporting it to anyone. They're not telling their kids because they know if they tell someone they've fallen that then, oh, mom, we better talk about you moving into a facility. Like, I'm not telling anyone that I fell, right?
Yeah.
When you start to look at how many are showing up in our healthcare system, 24% required medical treatment or restricted activity for at least a day. We know we're having over 1 million visits a year to the emergency room. And this is only going to climb. These numbers are going to climb. So you look at the projections here over the next 10 years, it's pretty staggering, going from 29 million falls just 5 years ago to 49 million falls. The cost of fall-related injuries is going to become a staggering statistic in the United States alone. And this is very true of almost all developed countries around the world. It's staggering. When someone falls breaks a wrist, breaks a hip, dislocates a joint, breaks a vertebral. You know, there's obviously, if they fall and fracture their skull, those tend to be the serious life-threatening injuries.
Yeah,
There's
that happened to my dad.
huge costs. Okay, I'm going to jump through this slide just because we got more stuff to get to, because you have some cancer stuff in here, which
Yeah, so
complicates even more being
it does. And
70s
my
80s.
dad was a perfect example. He fell, hit his head, didn't tell my mom for a week, ended up with a subdural hematoma. He had 3 cancers, which would have killed him, but we had to let him go because of the subdural hematoma, and because of myodysplasia, he could not stop bleeding. So I know that better than, or at least as well as anybody. But with cancer, we have a broad spectrum of side effects, but especially balance, neuropathy, and the neuropathy could be in their feet, it can be in their hands, and you have to understand how to not only accommodate but optimize the exercise programming. And then most are at a higher risk of osteoporosis, whether it be the age or hormonal therapy, or again through chemotherapy. So if you look on the left, these are all issues that are predisposing people to the balance, neuropathy, and osteoporosis. And then we've got some statistics on the right. Not a big fan of just reading off statistics, but you guys have this, and there'll be some questions in your homework. But just, I can't emphasize enough that everything Dan is talking about with aging is just exacerbated over and over. And when you are around a group of seniors, so my mom lives in a community that's not per se a senior community, but there are a lot of seniors there. And in the 2.5 weeks I was there, all I saw was people going to the emergency room, people who had falls and, you know, were in casts or hospitalized, this, that, or the other. And I kept saying to my mom, these people are not healthy. These people are not fit. They're not eating right. They're not exercising, you know, so you can put yourself in that victim position, or you can take control and do things to prevent all of these issues. Maybe not 100%, but you can absolutely minimize your risk. So here we are. This was a review, just cut and pasted. But if you look at this, falls are common among cancer survivors. And that is, you know, from the point of cancer diagnosis through the end of life. So once you've been diagnosed with cancer, you have a higher prevalence of a fall. It ranges from 33% to 50% or more. So of that population of cancer patients, roughly half of them are going to have a fall. And while the risk is higher for those that are older, these are the issues that we're concerned with as a result of the fall. Obviously, fractures. And so doing strength training exercise in addition to balance exercises. So if somebody does fall, they have a lesser chance of getting a fracture. Subdural hematomas, that's what happened with my father, and bleeding in the brain. Then there's the fear of fall, which can be paralyzing. My mom has fallen a couple of times, and the fear, you know, what happens when you're afraid of something? You tense up. And for people who already have spasticity from cancer surgeries or radiation, those muscles become even tighter. There is less blood flow or ischemia in that area, and that causes more pain, which causes more apprehension to do any type of activity. In some cases, we have people being institutionalized where they actually need 24-hour care. And then worst case scenario is death. And a lot of people, I have talked to people who have an aunt, an uncle, a grandfather, a parent who had a hip fracture as a result of a fall. And just the whole process of rehabilitation is so depressing and so demoralizing. A lot of them really lose their will to live. So this goes beyond just the physical and definitely affects the psychological and depression and everything as well.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to jump through this one. There's a lot of different information at this STEADY program on making fall prevention an integral part of our practice, but due to time, I want to just move on. A bunch of different tests we can do that are really simple, right? The 30-second chair stand test, the 8-foot up and go, the 4-stage balance test. We can assess pretty quickly if someone is a moderate fall risk, low fall risk, or wow, they're definitely a high fall risk, right? I mean, 8-foot up and go, if they're scoring more than 8.5 seconds, it takes 20 seconds to do that test, right? So there are some tests we can quickly determine. Again, what does this mean for you now? Well, honestly, what it means in the next 10 years is we're going to have an explosion in fall-related injuries and a fall epidemic. And if you can position yourself as someone that can help people with balance, you're going to be sought out for a variety of different reasons. Cancer is certainly one, lack of strength. Don't want to leave my home is a big one, right? Man, the last thing I want to do is have to move out of my home. My kids want me to move out of my home because I've fallen in my home, and so there's huge opportunities here. The Gen Xers hitting their 60s. Basically, the take-home point here is the aging phenomenon is not going to end with boomers. I think sometimes people think, oh, well, there's this big boomer generation. The Gen Xers are coming right behind them, and they're aging very similarly. As much as they want to say they're not, they are. I mean, I even see this among myself, right? It's like, why is it that I was on Facebook, but I don't want to be on Instagram, right? Or Snapchat, or there's some other technology, right? It's like, I've gotten used to what I've gotten used to. And you see this across social media, right? Percent saying they have shared a selfie on social media. Look at it. It's 55% millennials, right? 24% Gen X, 9% boomers, right? So the reality is the Gen Xers are growing older too. So that just drives home that ignore the hype about the millennials. We hear about the millennial generation. It's the biggest generation ever. It's only like 2 million people bigger than the boomers. And guess what? They're going to grow old too eventually. So the reality is the Gen Xers are going to mature, just like the boomers did as well. They get to a certain age where they go, yeah, I maybe need to do something a little bit differently, right? And so listen to people like Maslow and Erickson and others in gerontology that talk about how we mature, right? We get to a certain stage in life, and all of a sudden our focus and our priorities change a little bit, right? We stop asking questions about things like, well, what am I going to do with my life? And we start asking questions like, what has my life amounted to? And how am I going to make the last few years really matter, right? That's a shift. It's really hard to ask that question when you're 25, right? Because you're not thinking that way yet. So it comes with maturation. All right, we got 2 left, and we got 17 minutes. So we're going to make it. We're going to make it because we got to cover. So I mentioned this one yesterday, Andrea, so I'm not going to spend as much time on it, but group training is not dead. In fact, we believe it's poised to double in the next 10 years. One of the reasons we believe it is more and more people are seeking out specialization, and they're seeking out opportunities. I mean, look at the explosion of things like Fit Body Boot Camp and Orange Theory clubs and F45 and all of these clubs that are focused on group training models, right? They basically have taken the personal training concept and realized, well, most people don't want to pay $500 to $1,000 a month for a trainer, but they don't want the big box gym experience. They want a trainer taking them through a workout, right? And maybe they want that group fitness feel, but they want to know they're getting results, right? So group training is going to continue to grow. We're going to see this absolutely explode. And I think we're going to see it in all age ranges, but especially in the over 50. We're going to see group training programs for things like fall proof and cancer recovery and muscle building and just all sorts of things in the aging range. We're going to see greater specialization for sports, things like tennis and golf and pickleball and skiing and those sorts of things.
Well, and even amongst cancer patients, what we teach everybody in the course is it doesn't matter if you're Pilates, yoga, personal trainer, Zumba, Tai Chi, whatever. We teach you how to kind of cancer size it, because you still have to understand how to get people safely into a group setting, even if it's a small group. With cancer patient, there has to be a pre-screening to get people safely and effectively, and then get them results without getting injured. So I keep adding an extra step with the cancer.
Yeah, and all of those are just examples of group training and why we're going to continue to see it grow, right? Pilates studios, yoga studios. I mean, just since I've opened my training studio, I think I've seen 3 yoga studios open, a Pilates studio open, an Orange Theory open. It's like, oh my goodness, there's like 5 more studios that are just group training focused.
Well, and people love the camaraderie and the support and the family that they build, whether it's, 4 people in a group or 50. And I've seen it working with cancer patients over and over.
For sure. The other thing I think that's going to be a piece of group training, and now COVID has made it an immediate piece of group training, is the online fitness component.
Yes.
And so we're going to see online fitness groups. We're going to see hybrids, right? People that train at a Pilates studio, but they also train at home in that Pilates group. And so just keep in mind, online fitness, it's here to stay, but doesn't mean it's
like it or not.
doesn't mean it's easy to do well. Sometimes
Yeah.
people think that they can just become the next Kelsey Heenan and put out, 50 different programs and make, 30,000 a month, training people online. It took her about 10 years to get to this level. So it takes a while to build the online audience. But there's absolutely a huge opportunity there. And I would say it's almost completely untapped in the over 55 and the medical realm, right? So you start throwing out conditions like cancer, cardiovascular disease, Parkinson's, all these things, there are not online fitness programs to support those whatsoever. All right, last but not least.
These are so cute.
Expect more competition. Now, this is an interesting one because I think what we're going to see really in probably the next short term, maybe next 6 months, we're going to see a thinning of the fitness industry. Sadly, that has potentially been long overdue because businesses that were not healthy or not run well are not going to survive the COVID climate, the shutdowns, the economic pullback. But coming out of that, we're going to see an explosion of competition. I mean, people are going to realize, well, I can open a Pilates studio, I can open a yoga studio, I can open a fitness studio of whatever kind, right? Stretching studio and all sorts of things. So we're going to see more competition. Here's just some small examples of where it's going to be coming from, right? The large health clubs will eventually come back. We're going to see senior fitness franchises pop up, licensed models, medical fitness centers are going to take off. Hospitals are going to start competing with us, right? We've been complaining for so long that we don't get medical fitness referrals, and guess what's going to happen? Hospitals are just going to build their own medical fitness centers. We're already seeing that in many places, especially in aging places like Florida and Arizona, where there's an explosion of it. So you have all of these essentially geriatric patients, right? They have cancer, they have cardiovascular disease, they have Parkinson's, they come to the hospital complex, and then they're referred right over to the fitness wellness center that has swimming pools and physical therapists and personal trainers and everything, right? We're going to see more and more boutique fitness studios. I think we're going to see new startups probably about a year from now. Though I can't believe how many people have reached out and said, hey, I want to open a studio in 2021, right? Right in the heart of COVID. They're going for it. So why not? Nifty After 50 is an example of one. Their average age is 75 because guess what? People who are 50 don't really think that that's so nifty, right? So Andrea, you're in your 50s. You probably don't like, oh, I can't wait to go to Nifty After 50.
Yeah, I don't use the word nifty. When my mom says things like, that's nifty, that's swell, I'm like, really?
You got to be careful what you call yourself, but they have carved out a really nice niche in the physical therapy and fitness therapy niche. And of course, their average age is 75 because of their name, right? So you got to be careful what you call yourself. Planet Fitness, absolute massive force. They've been a wrecking ball in the health club world. Not going to comment on really whether they're doing things well or not, but they are part of the competition.
Well, and there's something to be said for you get what you pay for. And
for sure. Right.
Somebody said to me when I was a new trainer back in '92, this guy back then told me he made $110 an hour in 1992. And I said, how do you make that kind of money? I was making $45 an hour and thought I was doing well. And he said, you know what I tell people? Don't expect to drive into a VW dealership and drive out in a Porsche.
Right.
And that's pretty crass, but it's true. A lot of times, you do get what you pay for.
Let's go back to this because I think sometimes we knock Planet Fitness, right? We're like, oh, they're kind of silly, right? They give out donuts and pizza and they do all this silly stuff and it's only $10 a month. And they're being successful. And who are they being successful reaching? They're reaching all the people the fitness industry has intimidated or scared away, right? I mean,
Same with Curves.
Same with Curves. Home of the judgment-free zone. We're not a gym, right? I mean, they're a gym. Everybody knows they're a gym, right? But they constantly say we're not a gym. They're different and they're tapping into that mindset. And they're so cheap, right? Yeah. It's super hard nobody can compete with them on price. Good luck competing with them on $10 a month. They're super cheap. And so guess what? People don't quit because it's only $10 a month. So, I'll go to the gym next week, right? And so it's a completely different sort of opportunity. I'm not saying you should ever try to compete with them on price. You should be the exact opposite, right? But it is interesting that they're a piece of the competition out there. Here's a couple examples of folks focused on the aging market, Ageless Fitness and Fit Body Forever. We work with both of these programs. Fit Body Forever is a licensed program through Fit Body Bootcamp owners. Ageless Fitness, you can get direct through us. So you got to create a category of one. When you think about more competition coming, why is it that you want to be a cancer exercise specialist? Why is it that you want to be a functional aging specialist? Why is it that you want to know about Tai Chi? Because no one can quite do what you do if you're unique and you're focused, right? If you have better content, right, you set yourself apart. Prime Fit content, I just throw this in here because I love Jay Croft's stuff. He's a friend, professional writer. If you're looking for how do you improve your marketing in a more competitive world, you can consider hiring a company like Prime Fit Content to do much of your marketing for you for like $80 a month or something. He's super cheap. Now, this isn't the kind of content you want, right? So when I say hire a pro, you want to stand out from the crowd, not doing this kind of stuff, right? 25 pounds in only 20 weeks, in 2 weeks. That's what people think of when they think of us, sadly, in the fitness industry. You want to reach the people you want. So if you know there's a cancer support network in your market, how do we market to them? How do we stand out to them? Well, the way you do that is by being a cancer exercise specialist and a functional aging specialist, understanding what they're going through, right? In fact, most cancer survivors aren't really looking for weight loss. They're looking for strength build back. They're looking for energy. They're looking to just feel better, right? The last thing they want is a trainer who's like, yeah, come on in here. We're going to pound the snot out of you. Like, oh, that's the last. Like, I've had that, you know, beaten out of me through medication the last few weeks, right? So, yeah. Or months. I mentioned this, I think, yesterday, Secrets of a Successful Studio Owner. If you haven't watched that, the recording's in the Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group, please make note of that either in the chat or the Q&A.
Yeah, I'm writing it again. I've written it a few times in there. So
I know some people are like, what's the Facebook group? So
yeah, it's not letting me post for some reason, but it's CES/FAS Kickstart.
Yeah, you can search for that in the Facebook thing and then just ask to join. So here it is. We got a few minutes left if people want to ask questions. This is the special program that, and I'm sorry, for some reason the black here isn't showing real well. Cancer exercise plus functional aging specialist.
Yeah, plus the Tai Chi. Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get the cancer exercise specialist, the functional aging specialist, live training with me and Andrea just like this week for 3 more weeks. Plus some exam prep. So we're literally going to walk you through the certifications over 3 weeks, hand hold you to the finish line, literally give you courage to take that first exam. How many exams in the cancer exercise specialist? Is it 1 or is it multiple?
No, there's 4 practice quizzes. We call them quizzes. There's 10 questions. Then there's a 125 question final exam.
Okay.
And there was a question, I know I've covered this week, but Dan, people are asking if they have to recertify with functional aging specialist.
They do every 2 years. So ours is a recert every 2 years, and we make it super easy. It's $49. You self-report online your education, and if you ever purchase another certification from us or our conference, then we waive your renewal fee. So it's pretty easy to recertify. Our exam is 3 parts, so it's a 90-question exam, but we break it into 3 30-question exams. So you do like a chunk of the course and then second part of the course and then the third final part of the course. So you don't have to bite it off all at one time. But we're going to walk you through it. I think we've got like 15 sessions planned between August 31st and September 21st. So basically what I'm doing, Andrea, is I'm going to take the functional aging specialist live workshop and break it up into about 5 or 6 live presentations. So we're going to chunk through. We're not going to do it all in one day. 8 hours on Zoom, you probably wouldn't like me too much, but we'll do it an hour here, hour and a half here, hour here, that sort of thing. They'll all be recorded and put in the Facebook group.
And it's the same time, Dan, right? We're doing it this 1:30 Eastern slot. Eve is asking.
Well, we have it scheduled right now to do them all at 1:30 Eastern, but I know there was some requests for some evening sessions. So if we have enough requests, I mean, I can do a couple of them at night.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll record them all too. So if there's only a couple people who say, hey, I wanted it, 10 p.m. Eastern every day, then you can do the recording too. So
yeah, well,
I'm
and
gonna
I
be
think
available.
one of the most important things is return on investment. So we know that there's a million certifications you guys can do, but what you're going to walk away with after a few weeks with us, you're going to have, these two major certifications and then the Tai Chi one as well. But we're giving you an opportunity to create a business and talk about building your business, the skills. I mean, even everything, this book that Dan has offered. So if you go to the Facebook group, you can get the free download of that. I talk about becoming the next step of the healthcare continuum, how to break into this emerging market, and this little goniometer. I'm going to work with you. So one of the parts that I'm going to do is teach you how to do comprehensive virtual assessments. So you can obviously do that in real life, in person as well. But now, can you do goniometric measurements while you're looking at a computer screen? Absolutely. So we're going to go through all of that. You're going to walk away with all the skills you need to jump into this market. And I mean, I can't think of a better way to spend your money. And most of us have the time now, at least more than we used to.
Yeah, for sure. Our course takes about 12 hours to complete. You get 10 hours of CEUs from ACE, NASM,
Oh, yeah.
ACSM, CanFit Pro, all the others. So I mean, you can definitely get, some people have asked, can I do both of these in a month? You definitely can get through both these in a month, especially if you're willing to commit 1 hour a day with either me or Andrea as we take turns walking you through the courses. So at that rate, you'll get through both courses by the end of September. So
Dan, if you'll take a look at the Q&A, it's not letting me type the answers, and there's a number of questions about your book and so on and so forth that you can
got it. Sure. I'll look at the Q&A right now. Dan, does the FS require renewal? We did that every 2 years. Sorry, Brenda says, sorry if it was mentioned and I missed it. Do we know an estimate of the percentage of patients who receive PT for various things, whether falls, cancer, etc.? We don't really know that, Brenda, but we do know, and one of the things we're hoping to study more at the Functional Aging Institute is what we call incomplete rehab syndrome. So someone falls and gets injured, or someone has a joint replacement, or someone has knee pain, or whatever it is, and their insurance benefits run out. They don't go see a fitness trainer, and it begins this slow, steady decline of function, right? They get their joint replaced. They never fully get their full function back in their knee or their hip or whatever it is. That eventually leads to a fall, which is some other injury. And you hear this story of like, oh, well, they had their joint replaced and they haven't been as strong and all. And really all it is a whole line of excuses for they never got into a functional aging training program and rebuilt and restored full function. And so now they're having injuries and lack of quality of life. So,
somebody's asking if there are educational hours for AOTA or APTA. I can tell you for the cancer exercise specialist, no, you have to, appeal it or whatever. We give you the curriculum and they usually accept it, but it's very complicated to apply state by state. At least that's what I've found, Dan. I don't know what your answer to that is with your materials.
Yeah, I agree. Barb, for the FAS course, are there actual books that can be purchased? No, there are not. So our course is completely online. It's a 12-chapter manual. It's an ebook, so you can print it. I've seen people print it and put it in binders, but we don't actually have a physical book that you can buy. So this book you can get for free. Getboomerclients.com. This is a marketing book. Getboomerclients.com. It's $0 and then you pay like $7 for shipping. So Pam's asking, is the additional $350 off the $1149 price?
Yes.
No, I think
no, it is, Dan. It comes off of the $1149. I'm almost positive.
Okay. I'm not sure. I haven't been to your checkout page. I was thinking it was
I think it comes out to about 800. So you get all 3 courses.
Okay. Well, I'm just looking at the slide here. It said $1446 total. Course cost this week $1149. I think that's the $350 savings. So
okay,
because we've combined 3 courses plus the live training. So if you've already done one of the courses, a couple of people have asked that, like, well, what if I'm already a functional aging specialist? What if I'm already a cancer exercise specialist? Then you need to reach out to us directly so we can give you a different link. We'll still let you be in the group, so you can buy just one or the other. So Lucy asked that. I think a couple other people asked that. So if you're already an FAS or you're already a CES, no problem. We'll still let you in, and we'll still even let you have some of the bonuses.
That'd be nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wrote Greg to ask what the final course it cost is. I think you're right. I think it is the $11.49.
Yeah. Well, people can check it out here.
Actually, Greg just
www.cei.teachable.com.
the answer is the cost after the coupon is $7.99. So
So there is another
getting,
$350 savings.
yeah. So you guys are getting $1,400 worth of content and training.
We're giving it away. We're giving it away.
Giving it away. We want and we need you guys. Remember, we're building these directories. We're building these resources, not only to get you guys clients, but to help the people out there that need help and don't know where to turn. So this goes both ways, and we need you to be a part of this growing team. The return on investment will be well worth it. And between what Dan teaches you and what I teach you, he's really got the whole marketing thing down. But keep in mind that even though he's talking boomer fitness, cancer patients are part of that. So you just subspecialize in that.
All right. Well, we'll be back tomorrow with a special guest or two. Who knows? You never know. And then we'll be back again. We'll be back again Saturday to answer all your questions. If you're watching this recording in the Facebook group here later tonight, you can post questions or comments in the Facebook group. Andrea and I are checking that. I can't say I'm checking it every hour, but I am responding to questions and comments in there.
Yeah, we're trying.
Feel free to post questions or comments in there if we couldn't get to them. But yeah, we would love to have as many trainers join us over the next 3 weeks as we continue this and walk you through these 2 certifications, plus give you the Tai Chi as a bonus. So 83 people still on here live. That's awesome. Thanks everyone for being here.
And I'm sure there'll be more bonuses as well, because we're going to have, as Dan mentioned, some people want some night things. And
Angela says she just checked and it was $7.99. So
you better get on it. And when does it expire?
Even better deal than we thought. So even better deal.
So we need more of you.
So I guess we're gonna have to sell more than we thought. So, but that's cool. So and there are payment plan options, right?
There are absolutely.
So if people are like, hey, I can't bite off $7.99 today, you can do a payment
we get it.
Plan option.
We get it.
No problem.
But I just, to reemphasize, it takes money to make money. You got to put the work in, you got to put the time in, but we're going to give you all the tools plus the additional training. And I'm sure we'll surprise you with some extra training and business building. We'll make it very worth your while. You guys are so welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yep. All right. We'll see you all tomorrow. Same
it's a
time.
Wrap.
Same time, same place. 1:30 on Friday. See you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.